Excuse me, aren't we supposed to start?
Yes, sir. We'll be starting right now. Yes, a very good afternoon to one and all. Today we have an unprecedented name in the business world, Mr. Sanjiv Mehta, who is the chairman and managing director of Hindustan Unilever Limited, which is India's largest fast-moving consumer goods company. Mr. Sanjiv Mehta is also the president heading Unilever's business in South Asia. He is also the Senior Vice President of Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry and a member of Harvard Business School. He was recognized as the best CEO multinational by Forbes India Leadership Awards and the CA Business Leader by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. We are honored to have you, sir, here today. So first we'll be having a keynote address by the sir, then it will be followed by a Q&A session by a student moderator. Over to you, sir.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you so much for inviting me to share my thoughts. It is an honor to be with you today. SRCC is a venerable institution and has given us leaders in every field, from politics to business and government to fine arts. Having been a commerce student myself, it gives me extra pleasure to be with you today. Based on the inputs of the organizers, I have constructed my talk around the following themes: COVID, its implications, and what we need to do. Share some of my learnings as the students prepare to come out from the safe confines of life in college. And how do you build an enduring corporation like HUL? I will also ensure that we have some time left for taking a few questions. So let us start with the pandemic. Till date, globally, we have had about 130 million cases and nearly 2.85 million people have lost their lives. The daily new infection cases have declined from the peak of nearly 850,000, but they're still very high at about 650,000 every day. In India, in September of last year, we were bordering about 100,000 cases every day. And then in February, it had come down to less than 10,000. And many people in our country thought the pandemic is getting over. And well, we are now back to in the region of 90,000 cases per day. We must realize first and foremost that the pandemic is not over anywhere unless it is over everywhere. Risk goes up with the opening of the economies and there will be mutations and multiple variants. It is also quite likely that multiple rounds of vaccinations may be needed to preserve immunity against new variants. Most of the world is facing a slow rollout of vaccines, even as new virus mutations are spreading and the prospects for recovery are diverging dangerously across countries and regions. The major risk is, of course, advanced economies and a few emerging markets recovering faster. Most developing countries could languish for years to come. This would not only worsen the human tragedy of the pandemic, but also the economic suffering of the most vulnerable. It is estimated that by the end of 2022, cumulative per capita income will be 22% below the pre-crisis projection for emerging and developing countries. This hit to per capita income will increase by millions the number of extremely poor people in the developing world. This is partly because of the uneven access to vaccines. Even in the best case scenario, most developing economies are expected to reach widespread vaccine coverage only by end of 22 or beyond. Some are especially exposed to hard-hit sectors like tourism, and most of them are held back by the limited room in the budgets. Last year, the advanced economies deployed about 22% of the GDP in fiscal measures, compared with less than 2% in low-income countries. Cross-country comparisons also show how sizable crisis support was often associated with a smaller loss in employment. And it is not just the divergence across countries. We also see an accelerated divergence within countries. The young, the low-skilled, women, and informal workers have been disproportionately affected. And millions of children are still facing disruptions to education. We should not allow them to become a lost generation. That would be an unforgivable mistake. It would also deepen the long-term economic scars of the crisis, which would make it even more difficult to reduce inequality and boost growth and jobs. Think of the challenges ahead. The G20 economies alone, excluding India and Saudi Arabia due to data limitations. The total employment losses are projected at more than 25 million this year and close to 20 million in 22 relative to the pre-crisis projection. You can just imagine the job losses that would have happened in developing countries. So what are the issues which are emerging? First, was COVID a black swan event? No, it isn't. It was not only predictable, but predicted. The effects of climate change and loss of biodiversity have spurred a rise in zoonotic diseases, infections that come from animals. Will COVID-19 leave a scar? Absolutely. Many countries will be deeply affected by this crisis. Severe labor market dislocations, loss of livelihood will become a major concern. Bankruptcies will also become more common, and the education of over 1 billion learners, as I just said, has been disrupted. Would disparity in the world increase? Yes, it is bound to increase. Will globalization retreat? In recent years, we have seen a trend away from globalization, with countries becoming more parochial. The COVID-19 crisis has accelerated the trend towards nationalist policies. Global and regional partnerships are being put to test. Multilateral organizations like WHO have been marginalized. Will the world remain turbulent? I believe so. The other potential crises stampeding towards us include climate change, social and economic inequality, ocean and ecosystem collapse, water scarcity, amongst many others. So it does beg a question, what does the world need to do? First, of course, step up efforts to end the health crisis and strengthen globalization. We need much stronger international collaboration to accelerate the vaccine rollout in poorer countries. Additional financing to help them secure doses. The economic arguments for coordinated action are overwhelming. Faster progress in ending the health would benefit all countries, including the advanced economies. All of us need all of us and not some of us. The reality is that this is not a one country problem, nor can one country solve it. It'll require the collective efforts of the world community. Second, we need to step up the fight against the economic crisis. Led by G20 countries, the world has taken unprecedented and synchronized measures of nearly $14 trillion in fiscal actions. The governments need to build on these efforts by continuing to provide support appropriately calibrated and targeted to the stage of the pandemic, the state of the economies, and the policy space. The key is to help maintain livelihoods while seeking to ensure that otherwise viable businesses do not go under. This requires not just fiscal measures, but also maintaining favorable financial conditions through what is called accommodative monetary and financial policies. Third, step up support to vulnerable countries and vulnerable people. Given the limited resources and policy space, many emerging markets and low-income nations could soon be faced with an excruciating choice between maintaining macroeconomic stability, tackling the health crisis, and meeting people's basic needs. The increased vulnerability not only affects their own prospects for recovery from the crisis, but also the speed and the scale in which the global crisis can be solved. Because if we don't solve the crisis in one country, we will find it very difficult to solve the crisis in other countries. So the first step is, it begins at homes. The government's raising more domestic revenue, making more public spending more efficient, and improving the business environment. At the same time, international efforts are critical to further scale up concessional financing and leverage private finance, including through stronger risk-sharing instruments. The alternative is to leave the countries behind, the poor countries behind, which would entrench abject inequality. Even worse, it would represent a major threat to global economy. And it would rank as a historic missed opportunity. To ensure a more sustainable and equitable world in the future, the rich and the developed should not shirk away from the responsibility towards the poor and the developing countries. As Mahatma Gandhi said, The rich must live simply so that the poor can simply live. Fourth, progress decisively on climate actions. COVID-19 could potentially halt the progress on climate action. We should get away from procrastination and half measures and work together to flatten the climate curve. Take steps to better manage water resources and keep plastic away from the environment. We should always remember that we have vaccines for COVID-19, but there is going to be no vaccines for climate change. Let me now move to the second leg of my talk. While each one of you will chart a unique voyage, let me share a few lessons from my time navigating the waters in India and abroad, be it in calm weather or during a storm. First, purpose and values. As Mark Twain puts it, the two most important days in your life are the day you are born and the day you find out why. With the world changing at a faster pace than ever before, people feel adrift. They lose sight of who they are and what they stand for. And it is during this turbulent times that finding a purpose and working constantly towards it makes them feel anchored. Throughout your life, you will confront situations that will tempt you towards taking the easier path where you might have to compromise on your values. It may seem innocuous in the short term, but can have devastating consequences in the longer run. Your generation has a great opportunity to practice the highest standards of ethics and values and change the perception about a country. Remember, always tread the difficult path of harder right over the easier wrong. Second, passion. Find something you love to do so much. You can't wait for the sun to rise to do it all over again, said Chris Gardner, the famous American businessman and speaker. Put in passion as your true north in the life's navigation system. Dive into it with full commitment, and you will see how it will help you sail through the mightiest of oceans. Never let the spark of passion simmer, as when everything will lose its relevance, this is where you will derive your inner strength and energy. This is what will keep you going. Don't give in to your fears. If you do, you won't be able to talk to your heart, said Paul Coelho, the Brazilian novelist. Are you afraid of your failures? If so, you're not the only one. Fear of failure prevents many people from acting, and as a result, reduces their potential success in life. The question is, can you succeed without failing? No, not unless mediocrity fulfills you. The best ways to learn is through failures. When you fail, you learn. And when you fail big, you learn big. Always remember, it's always when you're out of your comfort zone, you continue to surprise yourself as you realize there are gears that you didn't even know existed. Just like fire shapes gold, adversities shape men and women. Don't fear failure. Not failure, but low aim is the crime. In great attempts, it is glorious even to fail. It does not matter how many times you fail. What matters is the resilience you demonstrate by bouncing back from your failures. Fourth, very important, humility and ambition. When you have the ambition, you're not limited by the resources. Ambition is the single most important ingredient for success as it overrides both talent and resources. Ambition can lead anyone to triumph, regardless of what is put in front of them. And when humility is intertwined with ambition, then you have a very potent force. I call it ambition. Last but not the least is curiosity and learning. The only way to remain ahead of the curve in an increasingly complex world, which is evolving at an unprecedented pace, is by being relevant. The secret to which is to always be curious and be a student throughout your life, which opens new worlds and possibilities. If you don't keep learning and reinventing yourself, how are you as leaders of tomorrow going to reinvent the businesses and enterprises you will be running? You are among the 600 million youth of the country who could potentially change the world. So venture out, experiment, go for knowledge and experiences. Never be daunted by the challenges. Let me now come to the company I lead and love, Hindustan Unilever. At HUL and Unilever, we have three fundamental beliefs. Companies with purpose last, brands with purpose grow and people with purpose thrive. At HUL, it has always been much more than just selling soaps and soups. We are unified by a shared belief in the purpose of a business. Our purpose is very simple: to make sustainable living commonplace, meaning we want to democratize sustainability. We believe that our commitments towards climate, nature, and society are integral to the business. The Unilever Compass, a strategy for sustainable growth, aims to build a healthier planet and the society as we grow the business. The Compass has several time-bound commitments that we believe will help to address the challenges and building a more sustainable and equitable world. Unilever has been at the forefront of propagating and living with what is called the multi-stakeholder and the long-term compounding model. We have demonstrated that when we focus on consumers, customers and suppliers, our employees, the planet, our society, then shareholder wealth does get created. We have remained the preeminent FMCG company in the country for over 8 decades. And we are the 5th most valuable company in the country today with a market cap of $75 billion. Profits through purpose is what we have demonstrated. We also believe that our brands are a force for good. And the evidence is clear and compelling that brands with purpose grow faster. In fact, we are prepared to state that in the future, every HUL brand will be a brand with purpose. The great work done by brands such as Lifebuoy, Dove, Vaseline, Brook Bond, Surf Excel, Horlicks, Clinic Plus, amongst others, show the huge impact that brands can have in addressing an environmental or societal issue. Our brands just don't talk about taking action that demonstrates the commitment, but very importantly, they act to make a difference. To ensure that companies are led with purpose, we of course need leaders that are purpose-driven. At Unilever, we believe that our brands with purpose grow, but this is only made by people. Therefore, it's just as important that people with purpose thrive within a company. Whether you are a human spark, igniter, a talent catalyst, or a digital disruptor, we encourage our employees to live their purpose every day. Be yourself. At Unilever, we don't just say it, we celebrate it. At Unilever, employees aren't just comfortable being themselves at work, they're encouraged to do it. Here, you don't need to change to be successful. Our leadership plays a vital role in ensuring that everyone is valued, included, and brings the best passion into the workplace. We work hard to build a strong sense of community by tapping into the thoughts and experiences of every Unilever employee. Through this, we foster an inclusive culture, provide leadership, professional development, and networking opportunities. We have been an employer of choice for several years now, which enables us to attract the best talent the country provides, and we then make them better. Last but not the least, while the source of some of our capital is Anglo-Dutch, our ethos at Hindustan Unilever is Indian. Our heart beats for India, and we align ourselves with a national agenda. This philosophy manifests in different ways, whether it is helping develop over 130,000 women entrepreneurs in deep rural India, whom we call as Shakti Ammas, or working in over 11,000 villages, democratizing water management and creating a water potential of 1.3 trillion liters, which can meet the drinking water needs of the entire population for a year, or providing over 400 CXOs to corporate India, who proudly wear a badge trained by Hindustan Unilever. On that note, let me now open it up for questions and answers.
Thank you, sir, for such a wonderful session. I'm sure everyone here realizes the importance of unity to get through the crisis and also how to go about life in general. Now we'll have a Q&A session by Mr. Adarsh. It will be moderated by Mr. Adarsh Raj, a third-year student of Shri Ram College of Commerce, Delhi University. Over to you, Adarsh.
Hi, Adarsh.
Hello, sir. Firstly, a very good afternoon, sir, and thank you for inspiring the students through your address.
Not
We at
at all.
Conclave, SRCC are immensely proud to have you with us. With thousands of students waiting to hear your words of wisdom, let us start with the round of questions, sir.
Please go ahead.
Okay, so firstly, sir, I have nothing but the deepest of admiration for Hindustan Unilever for helping the entire country during the phase of COVID-19, as a lot of work was carried out by the HUL team to combat the situation, be it making the commitment of hundreds of crores towards the nation fight against COVID, or donating products for better health, or whether creating mass awareness. It has been nothing but monumental. So, what do you think set HUL apart from the rest, who keep their cool even with a massive slump in the demand of FMCG products, to undertake initiatives like this on such a massive scale?
Yeah, thank you for that question, Adarsh. I think first, very importantly, we always run the business for the long term. And we certainly believe that we will prosper as a company only if the society in which we live prosper. Yeah, so we always have a multi-stakeholder model, and this is something which comes very naturally to us. Yeah, helping the community, helping the society. So we were amongst the first companies to set aside 100 crores to start with to help the COVID. And then you don't look at what impact it's going to happen to your profit. Because it's very simple. This crisis is of huge magnitude. And every one of us, corporations, individuals, we need to step up and help the community. Maybe it might be a little small acts, helping your neighbor, showing compassion to them. If someone has a COVID and they're locked up, how do you ensure that essential supplies reach them? I think only if all of us in the country put the country first, then we will make our country into a real great country. And that's the philosophy everyone should live with.
Okay, thank you, sir, for that answer. My second question to you would be just a follow-up question to this. So, if you have to define HUL in a word, what would that word be?
May I use two words?
Okay, sir. Let's have two words for HUL.
So I would call HUL compassionate capitalist.
Okay, that sounds really great. Okay, sir. The next question is, with COVID hitting us and online marketplace reaching a bigger chunk of retail space pie, and the fact that people are moving faster towards online platforms to purchase their daily needs as well, and with large conglomerates bringing up their super apps, Reliance being a key example, and also supermarkets are going online. So basically, digitalization is rapid here. So, do you think the focus of large FMCG companies now shifting from mom and pop kirana stores or brick and mortar models like Big Bazaar, Reliance Fresh will shift to more online platforms?
Oh, that's such a fabulous question, Adarsh. Most investors and analysts ask me this question. And I'm so happy that a young man like you have raised this question.
Thank
So
you, sir.
let me take a minute to give you a construct of the Indian market. Yeah. If you look at it, the e-commerce is about 5% of the market. The modern trade, like the big bazaars, the Reliance stores, etc., they would be about 15% of the market. And then there would be the institutions, like the army stores, what we call it, the canteen stores department, etc. That would be another 3-4%. The balance 75% of the market is still what we call as the general trade, the mom and pop stores, the kirana stores. And during the COVID crisis, two channels stood out. One was, of course, the e-commerce, because of the convenience, because of the assortment, and very logical. The second was the proximity stores, or the mom and pop stores, or the neighborhood kirana stores, because people suddenly realized the benefit of your neighborhood store. You could call them up, they would send a person, deliver it to you within half an hour. Yeah. So these two channels prospered a lot. And if you were to ask me to do a bit of crystal ball gazing and say, how will these channels evolve? Then I would certainly see in the next few years e-commerce moving from 5% to at least 10%. Modern trade, once the pandemic is done, it will again regain its sheen. because in India, people love going for shopping, and modern trade gives you a great environment. You can touch and feel, you can move around, yeah, see a movie in the mall, go and do your shopping, etc. So they'll come back. But I think instead of hypermarkets, it would be the smaller supermarkets which will blossom. And then when it comes to general trade, yeah, the main essence of your question, they're not going to go away in India. Just to give you an idea, in India, we have about 10 million stores. 10 million stores means about 100 million people, the dinner on the table is brought courtesy the stores. So not just from an economic point, but also from a social perspective, we need the stores to thrive. The difference is going to be, these stores are going to be increasingly connected stores. There'll be stores which will be adopting technology. Just to give you an idea, Adarsh, we have an app called Shikhar app. Okay. On pandemic, we had less than 100,000 Kirana stores who had adopted this Shikhar app. Within a year, it has crossed 500,000. Yeah, because they also want to be technologically savvy. They want to be connected. They want to do better service. So that's the kind of ecosystem India will have.
Okay, sir. That is my question. Moving to the next question, sir, that we have. So, sir, Unilever in general is amongst the world's biggest FMCGs, and it has been the same for years and years consistently. So, have you ever thought that if you become too big to fail, how do you manage to keep it lean, keep it intact, and make sure that in the end, it is a family with people who have a sense of belongingness?
Absolutely. That's another wonderful question. No wonder SRCC is such a wonderful college. It breeds great youngsters who ask such pertinent questions. You're absolutely right. You know, today, it is not about big beating the small. It is more about the fast beating the slow. So a big company, the advantages are massive because it gives you scale, it gives you resources, but you need to have the soul of a small company. Yeah, agility and speed are very important. Just to give you an idea, what have we done in HUL? A few years back, we adopted what is called as the winning in many India strategy, where we broke up, because India is not homogeneous, it's very heterogeneous, right? दिल्ली में बैठ के आप हिंदी पंजाबी बोलोगे, साउथ में बैठ के आप इंग्लिश तमिल बोलोगे. So you need to break up India into its constituent elements. So we broke up India because the language is different, the culture is different, the beauty quotient is different. And the other thing we did, we broke up our businesses into 15 mini boards and we fully empower them. They run the business like a small company. So within the umbrella of a large company, we have created a soul of a small company. And the thing what we do is we have an initiative called Reimagine HUL. It is all about data and technology, which is center stage. And we have got scores of experiments running every year where people bring up the experiments, ideas themselves. We create capacity and resources for them to work on it, which will redefine the HUL of the future. So you're absolutely right. Size will not define us. Are we able to reimagine and reinvent us? That is what is going to give us longevity. And I believe HUL is reinventing itself.
Okay, sir, that really sums up the entire belief of HUL here. Sir, my last question to you would be, since like students are struggling, so could you give us your 2 cents on how we can work on ourselves to make sure we are making the best of our time before everything goes back to normal?
You know, I gave you some idea today. Yeah, what I would suggest is, first is identify what's your purpose. What gives you great joy? Yeah. The second is passion. And passion is like the electricity which runs in you. Yeah. Difficult to feel, difficult to describe, but easy to feel. Yeah. Third is have a sense of values. That's so important to steer you. Yeah. Be a student all your life. Be curious. Be experimentative. Your generation, Raghav, your others, you're in an absolutely amazing spot. India is on the threshold of greatness. There is going to be massive opportunities opening up for you. And your generation, the onus will be on you to ensure that India moves from a developing country to a middle income country in the next 10, 15 years. Yeah? So make that dream come alive. So dream big, think big, and act big.
Surely, sir. That was really inspirational for us. And thank you very much, sir, for inspiring young minds of India. It was an honor interacting with you, and thank you for coming at SRCC Business Conclave. It was a pleasure for us to host you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And to all the students, wish you well. Take care of yourselves. Look after your elders. That's so important. Yeah, that's also the values of a country. And give your best. And reimagine and reinvent the country. God bless you all.
Thank you so much, sir. That really means a lot to us, the entire student community as a whole. Thank you, sir.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, sir.